Greetings, family. I'm Sajda Wendy Muhammad. We are going to have a discussion this afternoon on the historical significance of the Elijah Muhammad House, also known as Sajda House. And I am going to, I think I see Jamil here, and I'm going to see, there he is. Oh, I see two of my brothers on here already. What in the world did I do to get these blessings?
Um,
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, sister. And there's my big brother.
Assalamu alaikum. How you doing, brother? How you doing, sister?
Alaikum salam.
Good.
Great, dear brother.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you. I'm so shocked. Y'all got me all overwhelmed over here. Let me get my camera together and stuff. I didn't know the big dogs was coming on board.
Yeah.
Listen, everyone, we are coming to you live today to talk about the historical significance of, and I see Sister Naya too, of the Elijah Muhammad House, also known as Sajda House. So let me begin the right way. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. And we are coming today off of a victory. And Allah blessed us today to present before the National Historic Advisory Council here in the state of Illinois. And it was a unanimous decision that the Elijah Muhammad House would be included on the National Historic Registry.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
It's been a long journey. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told me, he said, now the real work begins.
Yes.
So now here we go. But it's exciting. A lot of people don't know all of what you have to go through to obtain that designation, and the challenge and the different people that you have to hire. And for somebody like myself, a lot of the restrictions, because I'm used to doing my own presentations and my own stuff, but they have things designated the way that they want it. But, you know, it all worked out. All praises due to Allah. So welcome, welcome. We got Brother Student Minister Jamil Muhammad and Brother Student Minister Abdul Halim, and my beautiful sister and niece, Sister Naya, on here to help facilitate this conversation. So what did you guys think? Did you all watch? What did y'all think?
I don't know who else watched, but I was there with bated bison breath. And I'll tell you, it was an amazing process, because at certain times you get a little nervous, you know, not because there's or approval of Sajda House, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House, makes all difference, but because as an honorific, you want every specific honor, every specific designation that is possible to flow to the man who met with God and taught all of us. And so as a person who's a believer in God, a follower of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, striving to be a helper of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, this is a big day. This is a big day, and it's really significant. As this program unfolds, you'll hear much more about it.
Yeah. Did anybody else get a chance to watch? What did you think of the process? It is a little nerve-wracking, but I think what makes it nerve-wracking is because, one, you're not in control, and two, it drags on. It goes so slowly, and when they start changing up the process, like, okay, moving along, or like in our case, our historic architect, he started having technical difficulties and he got a little bit nervous. I'm over here like, oh Lord, what is going to happen? But I was on pins and needles. I was so nervous this morning, I couldn't even work out. Usually I'm up like, let me hit it. I couldn't do anything. I was just like, let me just get through this, get it done. Either way, call the minister and do the live. That was my train of thought today.
I didn't have a chance to watch it, sister.
Okay.
But you know something? What I need to watch you do your thing. You know, you're capable, competent, and qualified, beloved. And it is why being a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that he put in our Constitution about the rights of women. And that anybody that would stop women from living out their God-given ability is an enemy to the Nation of Islam. So we don't follow a misogynist.
No.
We follow a man in whom is looking for God wherever God may decide to manifest himself. And in you, sister, I find someone that's quite amazing. And when we get past the earthen vessel that Allah has brought to this planet through your mother's womb and by your father's seed, and by the experiences and the life lessons that you have learned, both in school, in life, the Nation of Islam, your travel, doing business with some misogynist men.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some envious and jealous women too.
Yeah.
You have been shaped and formed in the crucible of the struggle to be the tip of the spear on something that you and I and Brother Jamil and others have no idea the impact that it will have on future generations.
Yeah.
Our ancestors have contacted us through you because it is their spirit and the wind beneath your wings in those times that you're exhausted, those times when you're frustrated, those times when you're at wit's end, those times when you feel like there's nobody and nothing that can help you out of a situation, and then somehow, some way, you come out of that corner, you slip that right hand, that punch, and you go on, you wind up until you can get in on the stool, and your trainer can say, hey, you need to keep sticking and moving, Wendy. You can't stand there in the corner and take those blows.
My dad loved Ali, and he would, one of the fondest memories I have of him is he would walk around the house just like just jabbing and doing the shuffle and float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. They didn't know I knew the fall back jab. That's what it was with Ali.
Well, my point that I was making, and is this, sister, is that if a nation can rise no higher than this woman, and that is a saying, so therefore that's an axiom by which we live. It is a religious principle that I don't believe any other religion teaches, that a nation can rise no higher than its woman, than the Nation of Islam.
Yes, sir.
Then in this particular case, the success lies with, of course, Allah. All praise is due to Allah. But we don't believe in a mystery God. He works through people.
Right.
And in this time, and this space, and this hour, Allah has chosen you to serve the rest of us.
Yes.
Because this house is not even for me and Jamil and others. It really ain't others. Some of us, we ain't got a lot of tread left on our tires. But it's for our babies.
Yes.
They will have an opportunity to walk in the same space that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the first among us that became God, and the impact that he changed. God changed the trajectory of Black people with his intervention.
That's right.
But through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, he changed the trajectory of Black America and the world in that house, that very house that you allowed me and others to walk through. Even though it was incomplete, I still was feeling all that you were explaining and what took place and what rooms and what floor and what, oh man, I can't wait till you open that bad boy up.
I can't
I'm
wait
definitely going to beat Jamil there, old Bison Breath from Howard University. I'm going to beat you there, brother. If you number one, I'm going to be number 0.
Okay.
B.
I got special sneakers, bro. Nobody gonna be. You ever seen a fat man run with some special sneakers on?
You had some PF flyers. You ain't had no Chucks, boy. I'm telling you now. You had some PF flyers. But on seriously, no matter who is there, I thank Allah for you, sister, and I'm trying to give you flowers while you live.
Yes, sir.
And I'm only doing this to encourage you because, as the minister said, the work has only just begun.
Yes,
indeed.
sir.
So may Allah bless you, not only to survive this endeavor, but to thrive thereafter.
Yes, sir.
And may Allah continue to bless you. So we'll keep on kicking this conversation. I'm just,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
said
I'm just excited to hear the news.
yes. Well, you said a whole bunch of buzzwords, and before I bring it to Sister Naya, I have to respond to a couple of things. You mentioned the ancestors, and my mom is here. I saw her; she was like the second person that joined, and so I just want to thank her. I'm so grateful for her sacrifice. But about 3 o'clock this morning, I saw a line of people. And as I was walking through, there were two lines of people. As I was walking through them, they were clapping. I saw my grandfather. I saw both my grandmothers. Some people I recognized, some I didn't. I saw my father. And I just said, okay, that must mean that y'all are pleased. And if I can do anything, one of my biggest prayers, three big prayers I have. One, I ask Allah to allow me to be his conduit. The second one, I always ask that our beloved minister gets to go be with his father on the wheel. And I'm not talking about death. That's the second one. And the third one, that I can be the answer to some of the dreams and prayers of our ancestors. So that just triggered it. Sister Naya, I love you. I'm so grateful for you to be here. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. All praises due to Allah. I'm so honored to be on here with you all. Oh my gosh. But I was just listening to you all, and your words are touching me. I know they're directing their words to you, Sister Sajda, and me as someone who's watching from the side, watching you develop and doing all this and putting your heart into this project. It's so amazing, and I can bear witness the beauty of your work. All praises due to Allah. But you all, I do have some questions for us today. Just some general questions in case any of the viewers today do not exactly know what the National Registry for Chicago House Museums are. So that is my first question for you all. What exactly is the National Registry for Chicago House Museums?
So let me just clear up a few things. So the house, of course, is in Chicago. And the city of Chicago has a designation that is called a house museum, which we are that. And we are in a landmark district, which is the Kenwood district of Chicago. So our whole district is a landmark. What we received today was inclusion on the National Historic Registry. And it's not just for Chicago. And I'm going to read to you the definition so you guys have it clearly, because so many people have emailed me, they don't understand and all of that. But listen, the National Register of Historic Places is the official list of our country's historic buildings, districts, sites, structures, and objects worthy of preservation. That's what the National Historic Registry is. And then when they determine worthiness, they have several categories. And in our case, they said, okay, it is significant because of the person who lived there and his influence on religion, socioeconomics, and ethnicity, culture. Those are the three things that they chose. And then, of course, your house has to be historically significant. It has to have certain original aspects to it that are unaltered. Over 90% of our house is still original, from all the wood, even the plaster. If you can see behind me, we didn't just tear down the walls to put this electrical line in. We carefully performed surgery to put that in. Most people bring a sledgehammer in, they take out the walls, they put up the wires, they throw in the plumbing. But our team literally did surgery because this other part is original plaster. And so a lot of the things that were here in 1902 and 90-some% of the things that were here when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad lived here are still here. And so then they look at those kinds of things. And then they look at how you're preserving it. What are your techniques? So there's a whole process where you have to turn in, what is your technique? Did you follow the historic registry's guidelines or landmark guidelines for restoring your exterior, for how you handle the brick, how you handle the wood? So see, we handled everything in this house with love. There's no gutting, there's no ripping. We are very careful, very methodical, because I said from the very beginning to the team, and I'm blessed because they believe and they supported me. I said, this is sacred space.
That's right.
And then the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said to me, he said, you are right to call it sacred space, because it became a sacred space when a God decided to move in.
All praise is due to Allah. See, and this is why it's so beautiful to have these discussions, Sister Sajda, because nobody really knows what goes into all of this. So it's beautiful to hear this.
It's a lot. Even down to, Sister Naya, you'll appreciate this as an architectural major, even down to the mortar. We had to test the mortar, because your mortar and your mortar can't be harder than your brick, or else it'll crack your 119-year-old brick. Even when it came down to finding extra bricks, we took bricks off the back of the coach house to put on the house so that we could have original brick. The important thing was keeping the energy of the materials that are still here, that were here when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad sat in this very living room that I'm in. There, he radiated a certain energy. And that energy came through these bricks and through this copper and through this limestone. That's why when you come here, when I say a sacred space, you have no doubt. And so our goal is all of this wood, all of this plaster is to preserve as much of that energy as humanly possible.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Let me take this opportunity, Sister Naya, just to encourage all of our listening audience, all of our viewing audience. Comment, go in the comment section, engage us. Let us know what you wonder about the Elijah Muhammad house. What are your questions about the Sajda house? How did it develop? What will it be like? What will it be like to be, and some of you in our audience may be the third person to arrive there that day. I'm going to be number one, then Colleen, and then possibly you. So I'm going to say to you, you might be free. Write your questions, and then I'm going to ask you to like this program and share it broadly and widely right now. Why? Because this is a discussion not just in language terms of historic proportion, but it literally is a discussion of historic proportion. We're going to get into some things this evening, and Sister Naya, she's already ready. I know she's got her architect/journalist hat on, and she's all of those questions. So I'll get out of the way, but everybody show some love. Put them hearts on the screen right now. I want to see that, you know, because a house is a heart, you know, the rest of it. For love is something. But my house.
Help him out.
Stop him now, Naya. Stop him now.
Well, you all heard that, Camille.
Share this bar. We got a lot to talk about and listen to learn tonight. Thank you, everybody. Go ahead, Sister Naya.
You are so special.
So please comment and ask your questions in the chat. Now, our next question is, what does it mean for us now that we have the designation?
So it means a lot. And I will say this honestly, I'm still digesting it and allowing Allah and his messenger to help me to really fully understand what it means. Certainly there are the obvious things like tax credits. I just got hit up with a $23,000 tax bill. So things like that, we don't have to worry about. There are grant money and funds that you can get. We're very mindful of that kind of thing because we don't want to accept money and then have someone to try to dictate our programming or tell us who we can or cannot talk about, because that's not going to happen. So in terms of just the meaning, I know that there's a higher spiritual meaning that I'm really just allowing to unfold out, other than the obvious things that you can find on the internet. But for us to go through a process, Sister Naya, of how we design the reservation and the restoration process, in keeping in mind that it's a sacred space and handling it like it's a sacred space, like it's no different from the Temple of Magdala or some of the other shrines and temples that you may go through. We feel like it's more than that, because this is where the first begotten of the dead laid his head. And when we went through that process to just have that work be graded by experts in the country. So think about that. The way we're handling the bricks, the way we're preserving the wood, the way we were so careful to make sure that we weren't running ductwork through the messenger's home, that we literally had to figure out a way to get pipes and ductwork and all that stuff in so you can't see it. Because these older homes like this, they were just radiator heat, and there was probably no electricity when it was first built. Wow. So there's no place, ductwork, no place for all that stuff. So for the handling of a house that is 119 years old, that's been vacant for around 20 something years, for someone to look at our work and say it's worthy of being a part of the National Historic Registry, and then to respect that so much and then say, and we will allow you to call it the Elijah Muhammad House. Wow. See, that's the piece that I think a lot of people miss. That was a big hurdle. The house was built by a very influential man called Mr. William French Burroughs. He was a Mason. I don't know what faith he was as of yet, but he was a Mason. He was part of the meat packing and meat canning industry, one of the precursors to the Libby food brand. He had meetings here at this house with many of these different iconic people in the neighborhood, Mr. Goodyear of the Goodyear Tire Company, the people who distributed the Singer sewing machine, Alberto Culver, other meat canners and packers that lived in this area. He would hold weekly meetings in this house. And his wife designed the house so that her husband and his business partners would have a spiritual place that will fuel them to help build America. And then here, our beloved, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in 1952, buys the house, moves in, and builds a nation off of his word from this very space. So to take that history and to take who he is and to be able to negotiate and navigate through the landmine of the media propaganda against him and have them say, yes, we will list it as the Elijah Muhammad House Museum.
Think about it. You know, Brother Jamil, how we be teaching, man, we be teaching Islam. And because the Black tradition of religion is call and response, oftentimes the believers are sitting there like that. We say, can I get a witness? And then somebody will holler, teach hard. That's right. Wake us up. Mm-hmm. Now think about this, sister. My sister's studying architecture. And what Sister Wendy said, and repeatedly I heard, was space. But also the other dimension, other than linear, other than something that's square to two-dimensional and cubic, that fourth dimension is time. Mm-hmm. And some call the fifth dimension, not the age of Aquarius, Brother Jamil, but the fifth dimension being a confluence of time and space. Mm-hmm. So think about this house right now being named the Elijah Muhammad House, or designated the Elijah Muhammad House, in a time where they're fighting against what they're calling critical race theory, which is really teaching the true history of America, but they're trying to whitewash out that part that deals with us and all of the slaughter and the savagery that is going on with people of color and even their own poor whites. They're just trying to really brainwash people. But here in this time, that space is now the place in which will be the embodiment of not critical race theory, but critical race practice in terms of how God came and established himself through a man, and through that man made other men and women, in this case, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and all of the stories that he tells us, like the one where he thought that he was going to be the one that was going to go on that TV show with all the leaders. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, what makes you think you're a leader? Get out here, brother. And he flew out there to get out there to be with his messenger so that he would be the one on that television. That took place in that house. The meetings with Malcolm X in that house. When the Georgia delegation came up in 1968 to the Chicago Democratic Convention, they had no money to be in the convention, the black. So we're talking about all them we think is big black people like Julian Bond and all these other folks. They came to the home and the messenger wrote them a check. We think about Muhammad Ali. We think about all of these luminaries, Dr. King, Coretta Scott King, you name it, has walked through those doors and been impacted in that house, in that space and in that time. And so we have now an institution that is the individual can be embodied in that institution. That space now is going to capture time. And it will be at the fifth dimension, meaning a spiritual dimension that transcends time and space, because it's a confluence of both time and space. And Sister Wendy, you know, someone said, well, what kind of, somebody put a question in that spot. I can't read it because it's too small on my phone, but it says something to the effect of, you know, what inspired you to do that, or what drove you to do that. And I don't think, I'll be honest with you, you can try to answer it. I've heard you try to answer it about 1,000 different times. I laugh every time because you don't even know why.
No.
You, in those times when most people would have punked out, gave up, turned around, packed their bags and left town, you kept on keeping on in spite of opposition from all angles. And even the Satan within was telling you, Wendy, what are you doing? Girl, you could be making some cheddar, man. You messing with this. What's wrong with you? That little voice in your head, and that God within told him, shut up, girl. We got work to do. You don't even know what was driving you.
No. You know how the minister said on, what was it, Savior's Day 2002, that Allah has to intervene in order to make you close to him. And so that's why we pray and thank Allah for the intervention in our affairs. Because if, no matter how hard you study, no matter what you do, if Allah doesn't intervene, then none of it really matters. And so I will definitely say now, I would answer that differently and say it was Allah's intervention.
Yes, that question.
That's a good way to say you don't know what drove you. You give it to Allah. You know who, we know what, the force and power that did. But if you think about it in human terms,
right?
When you add it up in all the things that we have experienced in life, this is what you call supernatural.
It is.
Because there is if someone slaps you in the face, the natural reaction is to slap them back.
Right.
Unnatural reaction would be just to lay there and let them slap you. The supernatural would be, and I'm not talking about a physical slap, I'm talking about an insult, something like that. But the supernatural is to rise above that emotion and that natural reaction and to be over nature itself. And that's what kicks in, because we all have that capacity. And what God has done in this, using this particular project, he's brought out something that you'll never be the same. And it's only later in life you're going to figure out, he's going to give you cues. Because if he told you everything right now, sometimes we can't handle what God knows about us.
Yeah.
And he has to hide it from us until we're able to handle it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the minister. The messenger would tell him things about himself, and it didn't dawn on him till later, and he came to realization for him to be able to say it and see it. And that's what's going to happen to all of us, because when we walk with a man like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who walked with a man that was the first among us to become God, who himself is the second self of God walking among us, Sister, we know that something is going to happen to us where his disciples eventually become apostles, those sent forth.
Yeah.
And what it says in John 14:12, whether Jesus says, verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth in me, the works that I do, he shall do also. And greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto the Father. Your second prayer, or your second level of your request of God, is that he go to the wheel to be with his Father. And you said not death. Well, when he goes to the Father, whatever we ask of the Father in his name, guess what? He's going to grant it. So you and I and all of us are testing out our God powers right now as we are living. And we're just a little toot while he's here. But he will feed us from that wheel.
Yeah.
And we will do amazing things if we believe.
Yes, I believe that 100%, that we have to be prepared. He's going to communicate. And I will say, what I will say for sure, and this has probably been going on, but I definitely know that I had to accept in starting this project that I now live in a metaphysical world, you know, an alternative universe with all kinds of things happening. And my biggest challenge was learning to allow so that Allah could move.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. There is a lot to be talked about tonight. I want to direct all of our attention to a question from the chat room, and I do encourage you to continue to share, continue to like, continue to put hearts up, and continue to spread the word that our nation has achieved a significant and powerful victory today. I want to thank you, Brother Student Minister Abdul Halim Muhammad, who is our Southwestern regional regional minister of the Nation of Islam. He's our student there, doing his best to represent the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in learning, and a student, and you hear that coming out. But as he said tonight, this is a significant victory. What Sister Naya said is that this is a beautiful occasion. She used the word beautiful. Interesting. Aesthetics apply to power. This is a great gathering tonight. And so in the chat room, we have our sister Resolute_CS, who asked the question, what was the driving force, Sister Sajda, within you that made you take on such a project? Could you speak a little bit to that, Sister Sajda, and we'll come back to more questions?
Driving force, as Brother Halim just forced me to admit, I guess you could say, is really just intervention in my life. But I can't really say that either, because I tried to say something like that to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he said to me, Allah has been involved in your life all your life, and he made you for this. So I would have to say getting to a point at the right time, I guess, where I'm open up to Allah's will and just following instructions. There's nothing that I do that I don't take to Allah and I take to his messenger. And I have a conversation with them, crazy as y'all may think I am or not, but I have a conversation with them about, do you like this? Do you like these trees? Do you like this color? Do you like this wood? How should I handle this? Oh, such and such is not calling back. What do you think? And I treat it and handle it as if it is his project, because it's his house and it's his thing to do. I'm a steward. And so the driving force, I think, was just stepping up into that assignment. There were a lot of other things that happened along the way, but when I think about that, that wasn't really it. And then once he showed himself to me and allowed me to see him, then I knew that I had to obey and allow and move forward.
Yes, yes. And so that kind of thing, I'm a witness of it. Sister Naya, I think you know where I'm going with this, but I've been with this project for a little while, and I've seen some things that appear to be happening and odd coincidences, but when you weave them together in a fabric of reality, they show you the unswerving hand of God is placed over you to protect you. Now, in the spirit of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we And that's the spirit that we should be unabashed and unashamed to represent. Our minister is an elegant man, a kind man, a good man, not just a great man. And he was made that way by Allah in his creation. Islam shaped him and formed him and developed him to the highest level of the application and demonstration of the gift that God put into him. I submit to you that the same thing is happening in your case for the purposes of this project and whatever else you will do of greatness after this. But I was there. I remember, and I know I'm going to refresh your memory, sister. About 3 years ago, we were trying to get back to the East Coast when you were building a hospital, a micro hospital that still stands a few blocks away from where I live in Laurel, Maryland. And as you were building that hospital, you were in and out of town all the time in Washington, back and forth to Chicago, and that's a heck of a commute. It's one thing to commute from Homewood, Flossmoor to Chicago, but it's another thing to commute from Washington, D.C. to Chicago.
Yeah,
But
I
as we
actually commuted that.
yeah, yes, as we flew home from Savior Day, I had missed a flight. We got caught up, but you had just left a meeting with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and as Allah would have it, we were seated on the same row of the flight. And as we flew back, you started talking about your plans with Sajda House. I don't know if you remember, but you said, Jamil, this is important. Now, remember, by way of disclosure, I've known Sister Sajda for a couple of decades now. She is a hard-driving, valuable asset to the nation.
Brother,
How is that, brother? She's only 16.
Well, yeah, I knew of her before she got here, okay? But our sister is a valuable asset to the Nation of Islam. And as she began about that, we said, let's do it. The minister shows us that God is working. When he's working for us, you can't turn him down. Let me give you the example of the Reverend Richard Tolliver. You may not know him, but the Reverend, say it, Sister Size, I got to tell it. The Reverend Richard Tolliver is a key member of the Chicago Board of Landmarks, or Landmark Committee, that decides on which properties will be designated as historic and significant in the city of Chicago. When we came up before that body for consideration on September the 22nd, and that's the 90th anniversary of the meeting of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with our Savior, Master Fard Muhammad. Then when we came up for that hearing, he listened to the entire thing, did Reverend Tolliver. And then when he got up to say his piece, he talked about his view of whether the house should be designated a historic location in the Chicago sense. And then he said, I wish I could show you, because we're doing this in virtual terms, I wish I could show you the books and the pictures that I have. He said, but before I became the pastor of St. Edmund's Episcopal Church, he said, before I established the St. Edmund's Community Development Fund with $45 million of real estate in it, before I became a board member of a local bank in Chicago, he said, I was a seminarian. And he was there in the seminary at Boston University to take his master's before he took his PhD from the prestigious Howard University in Washington, D.C. He's there in Chicago in 1968 to visit the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with a delegation of ministers, and he has a picture that he treasures. And he has a copy of Message to the Black Man signed to him by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he said, this was an experience that changed and shaped my life. I stand in support of the Elijah Muhammad House. That kind of support has been coming up everywhere around the city,
but
the state of
don't
Illinois,
forget,
the country.
who did he hear in Boston before that brought him here?
His fellow raised Episcopalian, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You see, it is all a cycle.
All full
It's
circle.
a cycle. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says he's gone all over the world making friends for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the minister has gone the same way, making friends for you and me. How many times, Brother Halim, have we shown up in a place or been invited to a place and find someone who already knows the minister, went to school with the minister, was friends with the minister, once shook hands with the minister, and still remembers the spirit in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? That's the spirit that's in this sister right here in 1/4 frame of this screen tonight. Sister Sajda is a unique person. Now, Sister, I know you don't like it for me to talk about you like this, but I told Sister Naya I'm going to do it, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. Because I'm a bad man. I ain't scared of you. Let me tell you something. This is a sister filled with the Spirit of Allah. She does not make herself a great reputation, but as my brother Halim said at the start of the program, there is an avenue for expression for women in the Nation of Islam that does not exist in any other organized religious body on the earth, certainly not in any other national entity on the earth. The sexism,
and where they can keep their femininity.
oh, no, no doubt, no doubt. You don't have to be.
She don't have to be like a. She don't have to be a man. She don't have to be masculine.
No. There's an old
and get some testosterone. In order to do that, she can remain Sajda.
And as she does it, and watch it, brother. But as she does it, she stands as an example for what women can be. See, I'm the father of 6 daughters.
Whoa.
What?
Yeah. I have 9 grandchildren.
My. Be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth.
6 girls. And let me tell you something. I love for my daughters and granddaughters to have the ability to see and watch the movements of their big sister handling business on a high level. When you see her get ramped up, you know the Spirit of Allah is in her. She speaks to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. She doesn't run out and brag. You know, I spoke to the minister today. I spoke to them. She doesn't come out in an arrogant way. I got what you don't have. I got some ice cream and you ain't got none. No, she doesn't do that. She comes out and shares the principles that the minister is teaching her to lift us, to embolden us.
Or she demonstrates.
No doubt.
See, it's one thing, man, to get a notebook full of the minister's quotes and what he said at the table talks and what he told you at the airport, you know, before catching the plane, Brother Jamil. You know what I'm talking about, bro. You know the whole thing. Some of the most profound teaching that you could ever get is not necessarily over the rostrum.
That's right.
It is the explanation behind what is the context in which what was delivered over the rostrum came about.
Yes.
And so not only is she relating to us what he told us, she's showing us what he told us. He told her, and in many cases, it's not a direct instruction. It is he lays before her choices for her to make, options for her to exercise free will and exercise and grow her God ability so that she will be able to see, oh, look at my great teacher. What he did was, it was like the Wizard of Oz, Jamil, when he pulled back the curtain and everybody was calling him a fraud. He said, well, wait a minute, hold up, man. You know, this is what you're lacking. He went in that bag and he pulled out, the medal, he pulled out the diploma, he pulled out the heart, and he told Dorothy, just click your shoes. I mean, that the witch told her that, but she had the ability to go home at any time. So in us is already something buried in us. And as we recognize him in his messianic role, he turns and says to us, and then what does that make you?
Right. Yeah, no.
What does that make you?
It's interesting you say that because yes, in speaking with the minister, it's, even sometimes when I try to get a little more specific, if he just gives me a few principles and then I have to figure it out, he doesn't say yes and here's a checklist. And even sometimes when I try to get more specific, he'll say either think over it or he'll say, well, talk to the messenger about it. And I say, yes, sir. So it's a difference, when, as a young 20-something, when I was working for him, we had clearer instructions. It was different. but now it's very principle driven, and you have to hear what he's saying and what he's not saying. And sometimes he'll say something without actually verbalizing it. And I can hear it in the conversation, and I'll say, okay, I heard it. And then when it's over with, when I go back and talk to him again, and then he says it, and I say, I heard you. So it's a process of learning how to, and I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to put myself in a certain light, but it's a process of just learning how to communicate on another level, and knowing when you hear him, you're talking to all three of them.
It really does. The way he handles us now, because he evolved. The way he handles us, Brother Jamil, if you really think about it, it prevents this from being a charismatic character cult.
That's right.
Think about what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
He allows the God in us to manifest itself so that we learn from him as the lead wire.
Mm-hmm.
But yet and still, he does not cause us to lose our own selves in his light. We're still stars. We may not be seen by others because of the brightness of his shine, but his shine is not putting shade on us. In a sense, it protects us until night comes when we will actually shine. But that was so profound in what you were saying, Sister Shaza, in so much as the way he handled, because he does, but Jamil can bear witness. He be saying stuff and like it hit you like a boomerang, like maybe an hour later, a month later, a year later. But it prevents us from being in a charismatic character cult because the principles and the way that he's handled us, even when he's correcting us sternly, stays with us even when we're not in his physical presence.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So, Sister Naya, I know we got to jump off and come back on for the second hour, and I'm assuming we probably got about 5 minutes. Did you have something else you wanted to ask or another question? Because, let me tell you something. See, I got experience with these ministers. Let me just say it this way. When I would do my radio show, and people would text me and say, oh, you did a great job. And the text that would hit me the hardest would be either from my mom or from one of Muhammad's ministers. Because Muhammad got the baddest ministers, the baddest speakers on the planet. And they can talk, sis. So you got to know how to get in there. It's almost like spiritual sparring with them. See, and I I'm your big sis. I can hang with them, you know what I mean? But you got to know how to jump in there, because they would take over the whole program and you got a whole agenda. And then they'll say, all right, then all praise is due to Allah.
Yes, ma'am.
I love them to death, but you just got to know how to. That's part of the ministry class.
Yes. Well,
knowing how to get in there, and then we got this thing where we know how to bait one another. See, I know what to say to get Jamil to start firing off. I know how to get Brother Halim to fire off, and that's how we do. We bounce off of each other. So you a student minister too, so jump on in there with us. Look at her face. She like,
Inshallah. But yes, ma'am, I am still learning, but I'm just listening to the wonderful conversation that you all are having. But I do have a couple more questions, so I will add one.
Let's take one, and then we're going to go off and come right back.
Yes, ma'am. So this question is, what is the significance of having a Black woman as the spearhead of this project?
For me, and I'm going to let the brothers really handle this one. I said I was going to curb them, but I'm going to let them handle this one these last 5 minutes. But for me as a woman, Sister Naya, it helps me to be an example for sisters like yourself. But it also helps me to show the world in a world where women have to alter themselves so much just to be of significance and just to be heard, when our modesty is weaponized, when our femininity is demonized, in a world like this today, to be able to be a woman and maintain a spirit of love, maintain a spirit of femininity, maintain a spirit of love for God, that means the world to me. That is a treasure that I hold dearly to my heart, because there are so many women out there that just don't have that opportunity.
That's true. Yes, ma'am. It's like, as a young child growing up, as a young Black child growing up, and you see Superwoman, but Superwoman is never Black. Superwoman is
Right.
always white. But Sister Sajda, you are a Black Superwoman. You are that
Oh,
example for our future generations, and that's so beautiful. You're an example for me as well.
oh, praise be to
The word
Allah.
example, the word example is the perfect word, Sister Naya. And I have to say this about my sister. She's showing many of us and reminding others of us and inspiring still others of us how to follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. How to practice, as Brother Halim said earlier, not just listen and repeat it from a notepad, but to exemplify it in the way that you actually walk, talk, move, and are. This is our sister who is performing the action in her life. And I've thought about your life. You know, you coming in the mosque, you always had a spirit. Hey, let's go here. Hey, let's do that. Let's check this. Hey, this looks interesting. Let's learn about that. You were always that one who wanted to learn and grow and know something different and look at things from a different perspective. I believe that Allah guides his servants as he chooses, and he gives the protection of his universal embrace to those whom he is preserving for a mission to come at a later time, as my talked about it earlier in this broadcast. So when we come back for the second hour, after I hear from Brother Halim, I know there's going to be much more to talk about. Brother Halim, does that make sense what I'm saying about my sister?
Brother, my concern is in what we're saying is not with Sister Wendy or Sister Saja, but in my head I heard the Quran recited, I seek refuge in Allah from the envy of when he envies. There's just something came in my head. And my concern is that people don't misconstrue what we're saying in encouraging our sister.
That's right.
To continue the work that she has begun, and not think that we are lifting her up above anyone else, but we have to honor, respect, and protect our women. And that means in all shapes, forms, and fashions, and in all of their endeavors, we must be at their side, watching their back, sometimes on the point. But when it's time for them to shine, to get the heck out the way and let them do what they do and learn from them. I learned so much when I was taught through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad Sajda the House. I learned so much from my sister, even though I'm an urban planner and have seen major projects and worked on billion-dollar construction projects. To be in that space and listen to my sister, I thank Allah for her. And I'll close this point with this. Is something that Brother Askia Muhammad pointed out, in that I said that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote the Georgia delegation a check. He says that it was cash, and he believed it was about $5,000. I accept that public correction, because that's the purpose of the Elijah Muhammad Sajda the House, that history never be lost.
That's right. That's right.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Yes.
So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. If you don't have your commemorative Elijah coin, we're going to talk a little bit about this when we come back. Get your coin. Digital currency coming soon. Get your coin. Okay, we're going to go out. We're going to save this, and then we're going to be right back. So it's about 30 minutes, not 30 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay. There you go. Look at Brother Halim.
Get your coin.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we'll be right back. Give us about 30 seconds. We'll be right back. Peace and blessings.
Peace.